Here to present the Edison Achievement Award, please welcome Founding Chairman and CEO Emeritus, Qualcomm, Dr. Irwin Jacobs.
Well, I've had a great many pleasures in my life, but I must say that the opportunity to introduce my son, Paul, as the winner of the Edison Achievement Award tonight is one of the more special ones, so this is really great. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say my son probably several times, somewhat inadvertently, but as you all know, it takes two. And his mother is here tonight as well, my wife Joan, and if she could just stand up a second. Since she did play a rather major role in this whole event. Paul graduated from Berkeley, went on, did a postdoc in Toulouse, France, and then came and joined Qualcomm as an engineer in 1990. That was a rather interesting time in that we were in the middle of what people have called a religious war. We were introducing a new technology for the second generation of cell phones called CDMA. And the industry was very much in favor of another technology called TDMA. I won't go, obviously, into the details. But it was referred to as a religious war. And indeed, there were professors at a prominent university, and I'll let that go unnamed, who said that we were violating the laws of physics. Luckily, that did not turn out to be the case. Paul joined the company. He became involved with what are called vocoders, transforming analog speech into digital data that can be transmitted over a digital system, and did a very good job at that. And then he came to me and indicated that CDMA was providing a significant capacity improvement over the competition. Perhaps we should use a small part of that to provide even a greater quality to the speech that we could achieve at that time. Convinced various operators we were working with that was a good approach, and indeed, that's how the technology did start out, although as the computers and a cell phone get more and more powerful, the speech quality, of course, has continued to improve quite a bit. Well, we managed to get through this challenging period, this religious war, and the first system using CDMA came online in 1995 in Hong Kong. But we needed phones, and there was no manufacturer in the world at the time willing to make a CDMA phone because they thought it was too unlikely. So Paul took on the responsibility of being in charge of our phone manufacturing division. Indeed, the phones that went to this system in Hong Kong, and then next to a system in South Korea, and finally, of course, around the United States, those phones were shipped, manufactured in San Diego, California, and shipped to Hong Kong, and then shipped to South Korea. So things have changed a bit. But Paul had that responsibility of making that happen. He, as we went along, came up with some very good ideas, one of which, recognizing that it was the thickness of a phone that was critical, came up with one of our better-selling phones called the thin phone, for obvious reasons, and that turned out to be a great success. He also recognized that in the future, as we have a capability of connecting phones to the internet, that having smartphones would be very important, and actually developed and we manufactured the very first smartphone using the Palm operating system, and that was Paul's initiative, and he pressed through with that. We're a little ahead of our time, sold a number, but that certainly was that first step toward having a very capable device in your hand and pocket. Well, about 3 years before I realized that I would be wanting to retire, I went to the board of directors and suggested that they set up a committee, or add that to the responsibilities of the governance committee, to select a successor, and that I would be staying out of that entirely. They interviewed a number of people within the company, including Paul, and decided that we would stay within the company, not go outside. Over the next 3 years, they paid considerable attention to who would be a very good successor, and at the end of that 3-year period, they did select Paul as CEO. In a sense, that was a very difficult step for him, son of a founder and previous CEO, but he very quickly convinced, first of all, our employees, which of course are really critical. Secondly, the customers, also very critical. And these days, Wall Street, which is equally critical to the success of a public company. And he managed to do that very quickly and with really no visible ripples. It really went very smoothly. Well, the whole cell phone business, as you know, is a very, very competitive business. It's important that to continue to generate innovations. And Paul has been able to lead the company and to do that very successfully. And the smartphone itself, of course, has gone through significant further developments. Now 50% of us in this country have a smartphone, going up very rapidly. It's the same thing that's happening around the world. And Paul has been able to lead a significant effort to continually be ahead of the industry in providing greater and greater computing power, other capabilities to go in that phone. So that has been certainly one area that has required a considerable amount of his innovations and the leadership abilities, and he's come through that rather strongly. Well, now looking ahead a bit, he has recognized that the smartphones being heavily used are putting tremendous demands on the ability of operators to support the data streams that we're all making use of. It would be great if there was more spectrum in the world, but that's a very limited commodity. And so one has to find better and more efficient ways to use the spectrum. And Paul has set up a program at Qualcomm to, in a sense, increase the amount of capability by a factor, not of 10, not of 100, but of 1,000. And if that will work through and come, and we're certainly now well on our way, come through at a reasonable price level, quality level, that's going to allow us to continue to enjoy our smartphones for many years to come. He also has been pressing ahead with another initiative. Again, smartphones have cameras, they have sensors of various types, a lot of computing power, abilities to always know where they are, something called the sixth sense that will allow the phone to provide us with information about the world around us that might not be obvious to our own 5 senses. Now, as I'm getting a wee bit older, I am looking forward to one of those sixth sense initiatives, namely a little camera that will sit on my glasses, or for those of you who don't have glasses, on the little earphone, look ahead, and as you approach someone, whisper in the ear their name and the last conversations you might have had with them. So that sixth sense, I think, will be indeed a very valuable one. Okay, to give you a little bit more information, I think we have a video about to roll.
It's an amazing thing to be associated with an inventor and an innovator like Thomas Edison. I mean, first of all, it's just such a high honor. People talk about the Internet of Things and say, no, it's the Internet of everything, because we're going to have access to all this information, sensors, and the ability to get services from things and content from things, and it's going to be mashed up in a way that you will go into a location and there's sort of a cyberspace equivalent of the things that you see around you in the real world. The way that we kind of coined it is we say it's a digital sixth sense. So you have your natural five senses, and then this other sense is given to you by your phone or some electronic device that's able to interact with cyberspace but yet merge it into real space with you. One of the areas that I'm really excited about with the digital sixth sense is actually healthcare. Today, you feel connected to your friends and your family and your colleagues because they have a phone and you have a phone. Not because you're talking to them all the time, but because you could. I think in the future the same is going to be true of your doctor, your healthcare professional. It's not that they're talking to you or they're monitoring you all the time, but if something goes wrong, they can be alerted and some action can be taken to help you out. Whenever I get up in front of the employee base, I talk about how many chips we ship, for example, in 3 months, like 150 million chips in 3 months, which means that if you have an idea, your idea can impact the world and impact 150 million people's lives in that short of time. So to me, that's what I'd like to be remembered for, is that the things that I worked on did improve the state of the world, did improve people's lives, and if this award can inspire other people to follow in Thomas Edison's footsteps and learn science, technology, engineering, math, those disciplines that allow you to really create something new, bring some new value, and to improve people's lives around the world with your ideas. That seems to me to be the most exciting thing that I can be involved with.
Now, on behalf of the Edison universe, I am indeed very pleased to award the 2013 Edison Achievement Award to Paul Jacobs.
I think after listening to my father give that speech, I felt like Dr. Know-It-All also. I could have been up here doing every other word with him. It's a tremendous honor, I have to say, to be associated with this award. To think of my name being associated with Thomas Edison and the kind of inventions and the way that he changed the world really is just an honor that's almost beyond words. And then to be able to get the award from another amazing innovator and inventor who also happens to be my father, that makes it just that much more special. So, and as I think you all know, the spark of creativity comes from many, many places, from a lot of diverse sources and from a lot of different kinds of inspirations. And I have to say, echoing my father, that I appreciate those inspirations that I've gotten from my mom as well. So thanks, Mom. And to get this award and to see the types of people who have preceded me and also had this award and have my name added to that list, that's special as well. And there's another nice connection for us to Qualcomm, because one of our board members, Susan Hockfield, was a previous recipient of the award, and now she doesn't have something to lord over me at the board meeting, so that's nice. So thank you. So as you heard in the video, it really is an incredibly important thing at Qualcomm to continue to innovate. It's the way that we fuel one of our core pieces of our business, our licensing business, obviously, by doing technology transfer to people. It's also the way that we keep our chipset business ahead of all of the other competitors by creating, inventing the next new technology, all those things that make your smartphone get data faster, or give you better images on the screen, or allow you to have the entertainment that you're interested in, or all those kinds of things that you do with the phone. And it is absolutely the case that people at Qualcomm, our employees, are completely motivated by this notion that they can change the world literally. You know, there's this saying that says, think globally and act locally, and I tell the people at Qualcomm, you can think globally and you can act globally as well, because the smartphone and the chips and the cellular technology covers so many people around the world. And it, by the way, is not just about coming up with an idea. As we've seen all these products here today, you know, it's more than that. It's about bringing those products to market and finding partners that you can work with to bring your products to market. And in fact, when I get up in front of the employees, our 3 core values are innovation, execution, and partnership. And we put our resources where our mouth is. We spent $4 billion on research and development last year, and I think that's one of the higher rates of spending on research and development in the world. And it's really, I think, an important thing, because many of the companies that we used to depend on for research and development aren't able to do that now in a new set of companies. So you see the kinds of companies that are able to do that. I think we have a tremendous responsibility to continue to fund research and development. And by the way, not just of ourselves, but to provide enabling technology for other people to build on top of. And the reason why this is such a huge opportunity for our company in particular is because, as I said today earlier, the wireless technology, it really is humanity's biggest platform. There's 6.6 billion people in the world who have mobile connections, or 6.6 billion mobile connections in the world. 2 billion people already have mobile broadband, which is based on the technology that Erwin was talking about earlier. And so the fact that we can then take that technology and go into underserved communities and do projects around health and education and entrepreneurship and public safety and e-governance, and the list goes on, that is something that creates that inspiration for our employees and our partners to go out and create the next new thing, and to really imagine and reimagine what the future can be. And as we all know, the industry is changing extremely quickly. I mean, if you think about the kind of phone that you had 10 years ago versus the kind of phone you have today, I mean, really a lot has changed in that time. And it's really about thinking about how these technologies will be used. I mean, it's very clear that it's the intersection of engineering and design and marketing and all of these pieces coming together, that synergy that we get from all of that interdisciplinary work. And I'm fortunate to be on the board of advisors at UC Berkeley for the College of Engineering, and we're very, very focused on the future of education there and how we're going to create interdisciplinary teams, how we're going to get these young engineers to think about a broader spectrum, and also how we get engineers to use some of these technologies that we see here today in terms of 3D printing and rapid prototyping, and to do the kinds of things to make new products that serve humanity and improve people's lives. So I'm excited by the opportunity that's ahead of us, and I think maybe just to close, I'll tell you one of my favorite sayings, which is from a science fiction writer, William Gibson, who said that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. And I will say, in this room, there's a huge distribution of the future, and I'm very proud to be part of this. So thank you very much, everybody.